I'll tell you this, if I knew it was going to be this hard, genuinely, I wouldn't have done it.
Seriously?
I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have put myself through it. I've lost nights of sleep over it, hair, everything.
So obviously I can imagine from the take that you've got, social media marketing agencies are dead, that it didn't really work out. What was that like?
I remember like when I first started, it was all cool. One guy turned around to me and went, "How is it?" And I went, "Yeah, buzzing, love it, love it, love it." And he went, "How is it?" Cut the shit, basically. And I went, "Yeah, it's hard." If you don't deliver an ROI every single month, people just want to quit. But then if you over deliver, people think it's easy. It is a very, very hard space and it's not scalable. How do you think Cadbury, I think it was, made an extra, it was something like 30 million in a year? They didn't increase their ad spend. They didn't change the labeling. They didn't do anything, but they changed something on this package. All it was is they went from advising 1 to 2 scoops per cup to 2 to 3. So at volume, and I remember hearing that and thinking, what, that made 30 million in profit? I was like, that's it, I want a piece of that. And when the money's not stacking up, and the bills are, that's when you really know what you're made of, because not a lot of people can kind of walk through that. Like if I said to you, you can have a 9 to 5, or realistically an 8 till 6 these days, but what's the salary? What is the figure that would stop you from being able to travel whenever you want? Is it 100 grand? Is it 150? Like what is that figure? Because to me, there is no figure.
Just want to say, f*** them. We'll show them.
Definitely.
Oh, for sure, bro.
We'll show them.
Friends. Hey guys, welcome back to the Gooms podcast. Today we sat down with Aaran, an entrepreneur who said if he knew how hard it was going to be at the start, he wouldn't have even began his journey. We spoke about his journey from working overseas, working in sales, and now starting up his own online business. If you're someone who's struggling in life or in business, this is an episode just for you, and I promise you that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So make sure that you stick around. We're rooting for you. Make sure that you enjoy the episode and hit that subscribe button. Appreciate you guys. Why do you think that a social media marketing agency in 2024 is dead?
Yeah, it's a good question. So me and my business partner tried pretty much every outreach method that there was. And we were kind of talking briefly before as well. When it comes to providing a service, what it used to be is you'd run ads for a business, generate leads, and it was basically see you later, like they do the rest. And then we quickly saw it progress to you then had to call the leads, you had to book them in, you had to take payment, you had to give them an AI service, you had to help them retain the clients, build CRMs. It's not a very lean business model. There's a lot of expenses now. I think 2018 was probably the best time for that marketing agency, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I remember there was, when you hear Hormozy speak about on podcasts, like cost per click and like the conversion of leads from ads back in like 2015.
Yeah.
Like you literally just post a girl with her boobs out, like big boobs, gym, like get a 6-pack, and you would generate a load of leads, and he would just generate loads of leads, and like he'd generate £100,000 of revenue in a month. Like now it is completely different, man. Yeah. I mean, like how have you coped with that? How have you pivoted?
Yeah, it's a good question. So one of the ways that we've done it is we have just made it an absolute point to work with bigger businesses. Like working for the smaller business is the biggest headache. Some of our best paying clients, or all of our best paying clients, we don't hear from them a lot because it's a lot easier to provide them with the service as well. Our most recent client, I was saying before, his monthly ad spend is about 30,000, which ask us that 18 months ago, that's like a scare. We wouldn't even want to touch it. But we've just had a client that's been on with us for a long time. This is like me being really transparent. While we were out in Marbella about 2 weeks ago, he's basically just said, look, Black Friday's coming up. I don't really think this is working out. It's going to cost me a lot to stay with you guys. Why should I stay? And we've basically just said, don't. Like, just go on and do your thing. Do it without us. You've got all the systems, everything's there, because he's not calling his leads quick enough, and he wants us to do that. He also wants us to do absolutely everything that I mentioned before, and he's fighting over what was £1,000 a month. About a week ago, we said we will cut our fee from £1,000 a month to $750, use that $250 to now hire a VA to call your leads, and he didn't want to do it. Did not want to do it. So there's us like now reduced ourselves down to $750. We're way beyond that now, and I don't mean that in an arrogant way. That's just like we've gone through the rounds and ate shit for so long. Like we don't have to do that. So we literally just said, look, it's all on you. Like we don't want to be leveraged that way. But with the better paying clients, have you seen that like meme on Instagram? It's like as you start to draw the horse, and then it's like client wants it cheaper, and it comes out like a little stick figure. Like you just can't give the best service for the cheapest, and they're not willing to pay it.
I think more often than not, the guys that are paying less are the guys that are more dependent on you guys getting results. Yeah. I think that's with anything. Like, you get probably more complaints in Nando's than you would in the Ivy Asia. That's because it's a different type of personnel. And as well, like, the person that's spending the £30 in Nando's, that £30 means more to them than the person that's spending £300 in Ivy Asia for a couple of drinks and sides for the missus and whatever. The value of what they're spending is significantly more, even though it's less, if that makes sense. It's a different person. Sense. So naturally they're like, why can't you do this? Why are you doing this? This was burnt. This was this. That. But you're not going to get that here because it's just going to be like, I'm going to moan, then it's going to come back. I would have already finished everything. Yep. All they're going to do is take it off the bill. It's not a fucking big deal. You know what I mean? Keep it stepping.
100%. It's like in proportion to their salary, isn't it? So it's funny because I was saying this to someone the other day. That client in particular, and we don't mean anything bad by him, by the way. It's a different industry. It's a different business now. But I think 6 times his return on ad spend month 1. Now, in theory, you'd think, right, that pays these guys for like 3 months. But then the second month, he broke even. And there was a really stern conversation about, look, guys, what's going on? Because that's not how it works. You can't just put money into a machine and print forever. Like, the ad platforms change all the time. Every single year, cost per lead goes up. CPM, cost per 1,000 views, everything goes up every single year. It's just who's willing to lose the most money for the longest to get the best result. So, yeah, couldn't agree with that more.
Yeah. Where did business start for you, bro? Like, even before you actually started your business, where did you start to get that experience?
That's a good question. I've never thought about it too long. I've never had it asked to me. Is it a case of like, when did I start business, or what started it within me when I was younger?
What started it within you from when you was young?
Do you know what I think it was? I don't think I realised this until I was like 20, but I think it was growing up. I think I was in the golden age of when I used to want to go out, I used to knock on my mate's door and then we'd kick a football around for ages until the street lamps come on, then we'd go home. And that was kind of like when to be home. Mm-hmm. But the generation after me, or like just 4 or 5 years later, when they were my age, it was, you got a phone on you everywhere. So as I kind of exited that phase and started getting into phones, I was a little bit older and I started watching like 50 Cent and all these things. And I think it was just like the glitz and glamour of like making money. And I think it was just like a passion that way. I don't think anyone in particular ever sat me down and said, you should do business. And I come from like a big sporting background. Like I do a lot of MMA now. I played football to a decent level, I think. And but yeah, so I think just having that competition and competitive drive, it's kind of like, where else can I put that? So I took a lot of injuries when I was like 18. So I like had this knee ligament issue. I've tore my ankle ligaments like 3 times.
That's why you didn't make it to the Prem, innit?
That was exactly it. If it wasn't for that,
I think I had the similar injuries.
Yeah, we all have, yeah. So yeah, it was difficult because when that kind of like energy that you're used to putting into something is there, and like you train like 4, 5, 6 times a week. And my dad used to like kind of mentor me in that a lot. That was kind of like what we bonded over. And then when that was taken away, it was like, I've got all these hours. Like, how do people just sit there and, it wasn't watching Netflix at the time, it was just watching films or going to like Blockbuster, grabbing a bag of popcorn. I never really enjoyed that. So to answer that question a little shorter, I don't honestly know. I think it was just within me from maybe sport and mixed with like kind of seeing other people and thinking, well, if they've got that, like, I want that.
I think a big part for me on a personal level was the association with the success that came with sport, especially in football, was like, okay, I love football and I want to play football as a living, but there's also these things that come with it, i.e. the big Range Rover Sport that you see being wrapped by Yanimais. I don't know if you remember, what was his name? Sanya?
Is this the chromed out Merc, was it, or something?
It was the first one he did, the first footballer I remember.
Yeah. And obviously I'm an Arsenal fan, so like that was like Greek guy wrapping this Arsenal. Like, I want to be able to wrap my car. I want to play football. I want to play for Arsenal. So naturally it was like my dream was also like the money and maybe the fame and the kind of stardom that came with being a professional athlete at the top level was associated with my love for football, which kind of, I think, kick-started I want to have a shitload of money as well. I want to drive a car like that. I want to. And then as the football starts to be like, okay, maybe that's becoming more and more, the injuries.
Yeah, that's it.
Multiple injuries. Yeah. But I feel like I can relate to you in that sense as like, if I make it, I'm going to get these things. So like, yes, I get to play football, but I also get the car and the money and the house and the whatever. Yeah, and then when the football gets ripped away from you, it's like, now all I've got is the car, the money, the house. How do I get it?
That's it, man.
Okay, business. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting. I was in a business class when I was younger, so I wasn't very like, you look at my GCSEs, I don't know what they were. I think I got like 5 at C+. think sport was like A star, and then business was A star, sport was like a B, and then the others were like C's. I performed really bad in school, just hated it. But I remember in business class, Mrs. Bradshaw, she said, how do you think Cadbury, I think it was, made an extra, it was something like 30 million in a year? They didn't increase their ad spend. They didn't change the labelling. They didn't do anything, but they changed something on this package. And what it was is, you know, like hot chocolates. All it was is they went from advising 1 to 2 scoops per cup to 2 to 3. So at volume, and I remember hearing that and thinking, what, that made 30 million in profit? I was like, that's it, I want a piece of that. And it's interesting hearing you be like so honest about it. Like a lot of people say, it's not all about money, it's not all about this, it's not all about that. Why not? Like, why would you not want that? Obviously family as well, but like, you can't afford anything. Like, to wipe your ass costs money. Like, so everything costs money. So why not kind of gamify it and be at the top? So I think that's just echoed by you. Like, sport gives you that, and I think sport's so important for everyone.
We spoke about off camera, kind of your early years before you got into business, your early 20s, experiences in Napa, learning sales from one of the reps on the strip. I mean, Napa for me and Chris is somewhere like in our heart where we grew up from like the age of 14, 15, going clubbing there.
Okay.
We were probably there when he was 20.
Probably. Because we were obviously grown up in Cyprus, like that's where we're from originally.
Oh, mad.
And it's like you can just go out, like it doesn't really matter. So we can like...
For us, it does matter.
Yeah, but like it's cool. You can just go out. Yeah. Like I remember seeing a kid in the club the first time I went. I was like, "What?" Yeah. But it's like for us hearing that you were there, like being a sales rep and learning from that, because there's almost like a stigma around it. You go, it's like party thing, but you had some of your best like skills developed from sales there, right?
Yeah, that's crazy when you say that. So what happened is when I was 18, I came over honestly to pursue football in many ways, and it just never worked out because I come over with an injury. That was the one.
What was the injury?
It was my knee at the time. I had like this fat pad in my knee and it just wouldn't go. So I had to have like 3 cortisone injections at like 18, 19, which they advised against. I was just desperate. I was like, stick the needle in me. I want that stuff gone. But what happened is I ended up getting a job at Halfords through temping. So I was on like £7, £6 something an hour, whatever it was. And then I got offered to stay full time. And I did it. And I was putting in all that effort on an 18k fixed salary a year when I was 19. I then got promoted, so I got a company car and I travelled around the UK and I had to like give presentations and speeches to schools about their new apprenticeship program, and it was so embarrassing, like giving a speech to people that were like 20, 25 when I was like 18. Like to back then, like that's a big difference. And the boss took a liking to me for some reason, Duncan. He was such a nice guy, and he said that he used to have a business and he sold it for a lot of money, and he was a really high position in Halfords. And he said, "I've got a house in Cyprus. I see that you're not really happy here. I'm going to leave if you do decide to leave," because I was really close with him. He said, "Go stay in my house." He's like, "It's free for 6 weeks or 7 weeks. Like, don't pay me. Just go." So that was it. I quit. Called up James, who was my business partner. Well, he wasn't my business partner. He was just my best mate at the time. And he lived in Guernsey. And I was like, "Mate, Cyprus, 7 weeks for free. Do you fancy it?" And that was it. And we stayed near... that's it. Yeah. So like, who'd say no? And at 20 at the time, like a little bit saved, you know, a few grand in the bank, I was like, "Mate, this is it. This is like such a cool opportunity." And we didn't know what it would turn into. It was just a bit of fun. And we stayed in like near Paphos. And then one of the nights we hired a car, and it was like literally in the middle of nowhere, this place. And we hired a car and drove like 4.5 hours, literally down to the other side to get to Nisi Beach or Napa. And I met this girl that I had on Instagram or something at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing happened. But yeah, leveraged the connections, like a bit of networking. And we ended up staying in the accommodation for free, like some workers' accommodation. And then the next day, after we visited Nisi Beach, we were leaving, and this bloke pulled in, Frank, mad character. And he had some girl on the back, attractive girl. And it was him on the scooter with his little white helmet. And he went, "Boys, boys, boys, you like to party?" And that's what he said. And we were like, "Yeah, we like to party. Like, what's the plan?" And he was like, he tried to basically sell us into boat party tickets. And then we told him our story that we're going back. And he was like, "Fuck that, you got to stay." He was like, "I'm not even trying to sell you now. Sell tickets. I'm going to give you a pad. Walk around with these tickets. Sell them for £55 and you keep 10 every time." And that was it. That was my sales career that started.
Yeah. How many tickets did you go on? Like, how much were you making on the tickets?
Over how long? Because we were there for about 3 months at the time.
So you ended up staying 3 months?
Yeah.
Because you were just enjoying selling?
Yeah.
Wait, so quickly, I just want to... So when you spoke to... Did you say Frank?
Yeah.
From Halfords?
Duncan was my manager at Halfords. Frank was the guy who...
What was the phone call like when you called Duncan? We're like, "Oh, by the way, mate, we don't need your house anymore."
Yeah.
We found a...
That was a
Found a
funny
job
one.
on the strip.
I'm pretty sure he wanted us to return the key, and we ended up, I think, saying that we did, and we never even drove back there. I think we just stayed there the whole time.
Oh no.
But his sister flew out there like a week later, so she stayed because, like, obviously one phone call like to family who wants to stay in Cyprus for free, like everyone just jumps on it. So I don't even think we went back to the place, but yeah, we were bored. We were doing like hill sprints. I got photos on my Instagram of like trying to make the most of it, and there was a pool and it overlooked something awesome, but there was no one there.
Just bored.
We were so bored. That's why we went to Nissi Beach, and just by pure coincidence, if he hadn't have seen us, I went, "Do you like to party?" Like, wouldn't have happened. And I remember staying and saying to mum and dad, I was like, "I'm going to stay out here for a bit longer. Is that okay?" And they said, "Yeah." And after about 3 weeks, I remember ringing them on FaceTime. I literally remember it. And I said, "Sales. I want to get back into sales." Because something that I've missed out is my first ever job was in car sales. My uncle helped me get a job, so I was working at Volkswagen. 18. I wish I could show you the photo. I'll show you after. And I look like an idiot, fresh out of school. And I was selling cars. I had a company car, a little Volkswagen Up. It was not 60 horsepower, I think it was.
The worst Volkswagen you could possibly get.
BJ65 was the reg. Everyone laughed at me. Had reclining seats, alloys, and a pan roof. And yeah, so that was
roosties.
That was decent. And it was fun, man. It was like practically free. It was so cheap. So I loved it. But yeah, if it wasn't for that, so I started selling those cars for about 11 months. I hated it because a new manager come in. Loved it to start with. Brand new suit, brand new car, although it was obviously an Up. It was good for me at the time, and I loved it. But yeah, so I hated car sales by the end of it because it was so corporate, and I hate corporate. But yeah, that's what made me go out to Cyprus. And then I thought, yeah, I found a love. I didn't realise that selling cars isn't the same as selling boat party tickets. Like, what you sell is oftentimes very, very important.
Yeah.
Of course. You have to be invested in it too.
Yeah, 100%.
You invested in the boat parties.
I believed in the product. I had a fair few parties, but it got to the end. He was like knocking the door down at 9 a.m. every morning saying like, "You guys weren't on the party yesterday." And we was just so hungover. We didn't want to do it. But that's a pretty good life for a 21-year-old.
What are some of the lessons though that you learned from going to Napa for sales? Like, it's easy for someone at home that's listening, or for us here to sit and think like, oh, like, you know what it's like going down the strip. Someone's, "Hey man, like, what are you doing tonight? What are you doing this week? Like, do you want to buy this package for 100 euros or whatever it is?" Like, what lessons did you actually learn that have affected you today and are helping you out today? Because it's mad for me to hear that you went to Napa to work on the strip and you've learned skills in sales that you're using today, which is a massive part of especially what we do.
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I think the number one thing is to chase the no's harder than you chase the yeses. And I think that one principle helped me so much because he literally broke down the numbers. Like today, we've got Hormozy and people like that can help you kind of visualize that. But back then, I had an Australian geezer called Guru who owned the boat party. Who knows if he actually did, but that's what he said he did. And he was such a character. And he used to say to me, like, chase the no's, because if you get 100 no's, you'll get a yes. So you now know every 100 people that you speak to, who cares if they say no, because there's a yes at the end of it. And it worked out like that. And it was actually probably a little more than 100 no's. Like, I was so bad. And it was me and my friend James. So we used to ride around on a scooter, and we'd see a group of girls or guys or whatever it was, and then I'd say, "Should we approach them?" And for whatever reason, we always used to make excuses like, "Nah, they don't look like they're going to buy, too old, too young," like whatever it was. We just didn't want to sell. And then in the end, we were pretty broke, and we just said, like, "We've got to make this work." And yeah, literally just went through it, chased the no's. And then what happens is when you get 100 no's, now it's 90 no's to get the yes, then 80, then 60, then 40, and then you speak to someone else, do a bit of network, and then he gives you like this little one-liner. This one guy, his name was Josh Menzies, he was a barber, and he used to go out there and he used to say, 3 questions, guys, because I know this is really annoying. Where are you from? When do you go? And what do you do? What do you want to do while you're here?
Qualifying the lead.
Qualifying the leads. But I didn't know any of this stuff back then. But like now, in hindsight, you know. So I learned so much. And I was telling you guys before, the Australian guy, Guru, can I like share his...
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, of course.
He used to bang the door down at 9 a.m. every morning because we had the biggest staff accommodation. So like we had the biggest room.
Want to hear the accent as well?
I will, yeah. And he used to bang the door down. He'd say, guys, like we need the room, we need the meeting. So 9 a.m., bearing in mind in Ayia Napa, you get in at like what, 5, 6? So he used to open the door, get in, and he used to give these morning meetings to get everybody like rattled up for it. And one of the things that he said to me was, doesn't matter what you do, guys, however long you're here in Ayia Napa, one day you will roll over, you'll see that little fantasy boat party t-shirt in your cupboard, and you'll think of the memories, but it's who you become in those memories. And he used to say, no matter what, if I was to scrub toilets, I'd make sure that can't sparkled like that. And that was what he did. It's a shame I couldn't fucking nail the quote, but yeah, that's literally what he used to say. So if he's going to scrub toilets, he's going to make sure that thing is like spotless. And that was the mentality. So those 3 kind of pillars just taught me a lot, even outside of sales as well, like in relationships and with friends and going to the gym. And like, if you're going to do something, do it 100%.
Were you staying in like one of the accoms, like crammed in with everyone?
No, well, we got really lucky. So I think it was like €300, and then you could basically stay there for as long as you wanted.
What?
Yeah, well, it was a little trick. It's kind of like, you know, when you try and get a lifetime price off a customer, like if you pay 200 more, I'll give you lifetime access. It was kind of like that. So one of the things that they struggled with was like churn. So like these people would come out and then they get bored, or they wouldn't earn, or they wouldn't sell. So they'd just fly back to Manchester or wherever they're from. So he used to say, if you pay me 300, stay as long as you want. So €300 for accommodation in Napa for 3 months. Like, that's nothing.
It's not bad, man.
But the amount of times I wanted to go home because I was bored, I was hungover, I was dehydrated, I hadn't gone to the gym, I was too hot, whatever it was, I'd think, well, I've got this accommodation, so I don't want to go. So it's quite a clever thing, really. But yeah, that's kind of how it worked. So we used to have this little apartment building right at the top of the strip. And yeah, it was good fun. We met some characters and stories that can be shared and not. And yeah, it was good. It was good.
So you came back, then where did your life lead from here? You came back from 3 months at Napa, living it up. You've learned sales without even realizing it.
Yeah.
Where does the tail go?
Well, James stayed, and I remember leaving him with a drawer of about €20 in coins made out of like 10s and 20s, and he'll tell the story one day. And he ended up selling a load that day. So he stayed out there, and it was kind of me then just to figure out what I wanted to do for a job. And I remember thinking, well, sales is what I want to do. Selling boat party tickets probably isn't the best thing in England. So what can I sell? I'd already done cars, and I thought, well, what's a step up? What's luxury? And at the time, it was houses. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, if people are going to buy anything that's worth a lot of money, it's going to be a house. Little did I know how, you know, disrespected estate agents are, and people hate them and don't want to pay them. I didn't know that at the time. So I ended up sending my CV out to about 30 estate agents, and I remember it. I remember the email. I remember what I'd sent. And one of the days, one of them got back to me, a company in Worcester, so like literally, 2 miles from here. And I went and sold properties. Again, they brought me on to say, I'm going to do lettings, sales, and like commercial. But I ended up doing really well at sales, and they wanted to keep me. So that was kind of how it happened. But then within 6 months, I told you guys earlier, I sold a house for, I think it was 585,000 in Victoria Avenue, something like that in Worcester. And I remember seeing my pay slip at the end, because all the staff were like, oh, this is buzzing, you're going to be happy. And it was 240 quid, I think it was, something like that. And I looked at it and I thought, I've just sold £500,000 worth of property. In one transaction, I've come away with 220 quid. And I was on like 12 grand a year as a fixed. I was like, this is no career. And then I thought about the money, and I just put 2 and 2 together, and I thought, well, if someone didn't have to pay me that 12k basic and I back myself, then I'll earn a lot more. So I went out and started asking everyone for 50-50, and I'll knock doors, I'll pay for the leaflets, I'll run Facebook ads, I'll do whatever. Mm-hmm. And I got a deal, getting 30% selling houses. And I've obviously told you guys the story of that.
Yeah, we won't.
You want me to go into it?
No, we won't go into it.
I don't mind.
Okay.
Well, if you want me to carry on, yeah. So I approached this guy and just said, look, I've been selling houses for like 6 months. I think it was 6 months. But I want to value properties, because I found out that when you sell a house, you get like, say, your fixed percent. But if you were the one that valued the house and brought them on, you get that percentage again. And I thought, well, if I can do that, then I'm laughing. Anyway, COVID happened, and he basically stopped paying me, which made sense at the time because completions stopped, so you couldn't actually complete the transaction and move into the house. Estate agents weren't paid. It made sense. So I was kind of sat at home just dealing with a lot of phone calls, a lot of awkwardness, a lot of horrible customers, because they were obviously pretty pissed off. And then one day I found out that a house had completed, but he never told me. And then another, and then another, and then another. And despite having a contract, despite having it in email form, despite everything, the guy paid me, I think, for one sale, and he owed me, I think it was 18 sales, that was the equivalent of about 28,000. So at 23, he just didn't pay me 23,000 that I was owed. And that was a real eye-opener to like, I've got to probably do something on my own if I really want to, continue. So, yeah, that was an eye-opener.
Mm. That's when you moved into the agency space, right?
Pretty much. So I tried to do it. I ended up doing drop shipping. I ended up doing all sorts of random things. And I just bounced around.
Search term YouTube, how to make money online.
How to make 10k a month. Yeah. How to be a millionaire. How to earn money at home. That was the big one. And all these ads kept coming up, and I kept trying them, and I kept on failing. I just kept on failing. And me and James used to like call each other, because we're like best mates, and we just want to help each other, almost like you guys. And in the end, what ended up happening is I got so beat down with like the reality of it not being, not easy, but like so hard. I ended up taking another job as an estate agent, And I ended up getting a salary, and it was earning okay. And my boss was like the nicest guy ever, Tom. And that was in Evesham, and I ended up selling all these houses. And I went to networking events. So there's a company called the Property Circle in the UK, and I'm really close with the owners of that. And I went to these events, and people would say, "What do you do?" And I'd say, "I'm an estate agent." And they go, "Oh, great. Do you have like investment properties? Like what can you do for me?" And I'd go, "Well, I can sell your house. I don't really have investments because I'm in like Worcestershire and Warwickshire, and it's not really like, they're quite, expensive houses. So it's not really good for investment." And I had no value to give anyone. But the cool moment is when I set up that marketing agency and went back to another event, and then I said, "I'm a social media marketing agency owner." It was like, "Oh, wow. I need my social media. Like, could you help me? Could you do this? Could you do that?" And all of a sudden, it was like my perceived value to these people was so much more. And I remember thinking, like, I'm in the right space now. You know what I mean?
That was a big thing, I think, for me. Transitioning from working in the family business and like throwing no shade on it whatsoever. But so my family, we got fish and chip shops, and that's what I used to do growing up.
Okay.
It's like going from that in a conversation, being on a night out or something, and I'm speaking to someone, or like, "Oh, what do you do, bro?" And I tell them, like, it's not really that fucking exciting or cool or anything like that. But then being able to say to someone, even when we first started, like, "Oh, like I'm an agency owner," or for example, we do social media marketing. Like, it's just an instant conversation starter with whoever it is, man. It's a good way to build a relationship.
It's massive, isn't it? I think people as well, they realise how hard it is being a business owner. I remember like when I first started, it was all cool. It was exciting to say, and coming down and working from wherever and all that. And one guy turned around to me and went, "How is it?" And I went, "Yeah, buzzing, love it, love it, love it." And he went, "How is it?" Cut the shit, basically. And I went, "Yeah, it's fucking hard." It took, to be fair, we got a lucky start. We did really well initially because we did these like crazy offers, this $100 million leads, like $100 million offers, like Hormozy, like guarantee everything. And then we ended up giving way too much away and not valuing ourselves. But yeah, that's a whole nother story. But yeah, what you're saying is absolutely true. Like people's value or perceived value of you can go up massively when you own your own business, because everybody knows how hard it is. It's very rare that you get someone that, tried something, dabbed a toe in it, and then all of a sudden they're making 50K a month. And if they are, it's bullshit, isn't it? Because we know.
So obviously I can imagine from the take that you've got, social media marketing agencies are dead, that it didn't really work out.
Yeah.
What was that like? Because from personal experience, when you feel like you've worked so hard towards something and it just doesn't seem to click or it just doesn't work, it's fucking hard. What did you do in that moment to pick yourself kind of out of the rut, and how did you navigate that?
It was hard, man. Like, I remember thinking, we are doing everything right. Like, we're doing everything textbook. We paid $10,000 in January 2022, for a course on running ads. It was called Agency Lab, and it was good, and it was worth it in many ways because we're now in this position. But I remember jumping on the onboarding call and I said, "I want to do 10K a month." And he went, "Why 10K? Why not more?" And I was like, shit, we're in the right place here. Like, these people are, it was amazing. And then what happens, like, the reality is, I'm not going to bore everyone with the detail of it, but like, if you get one client paying you $500 a month, because that's kind of what it is when you start, you now need 20 clients to earn 10K. And if there's two of you, which you kind of need, then that's all of a sudden obviously halved. And then you got tax, then you got bills, then you got VAs, then you got CRMs, then you got systems, and then you got chargebacks and clients. Literally, it is crazy. I remember getting one client, unreal results over a weekend. He was in Dominican Republic, and he had another one in Tulum in Mexico, 2 branches for hair tattoo. It's called SMP, scalp micropigmentation. And we ran the ads, and I think he booked in something like 17 appointments overnight, because obviously no one had ran ads there before, so it was like going back to Facebook, but like 5 years ago. And we ran the ads, and he booked in a load of deposits, and then went back onto his ad account, and we were gone. We were banned. Or like, he'd removed our access. So we'd done such a good job that he went, "This is easy." And now I've got the ad templates, I've got the CRM, I've got everything. And he just booted us. So sometimes it's like, if you don't do well enough, if you don't deliver an ROI every single month, people just want to quit. But then if you over deliver, people think it's easy. So it's such a headspace. I don't know if that answers your question exactly, but it is a very, very hard space, and it's not scalable. It's not practical.
I was speaking more so on a personal level. What was it like for you doing everything right, investing this money, kind of bringing my friend in and doing what you did, getting it to a certain level, and then having to look in the mirror and say, "You know what? I think we're going to have to fucking stop this." On a personal level, what was that like?
I'll tell you this, if I knew it was going to be this hard, genuinely, I wouldn't have done it.
Seriously?
I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have put myself through it. I've lost nights of sleep over it, hair, everything. Lost clients, relationships that I loved, like everything that you love. And you've got to take time away from your family. And I kind of told you guys before why I got into this. I was going through some things. And I don't think I'd have done it because it's so hard and there's no one to speak to sometimes. Like, we've recently connected, haven't we? Like, kind of off camera, we kind of connected on Instagram, found out that obviously we used to be based here as well. And it's nice because, like, you guys are hopefully going to be a connection moving forward. But, like, we never had that and we didn't know who to turn to. And then every person that you turn to online, because this is an online space really, everyone's fake. Everyone's doing 10K a month minimum. Everyone's doing 50K. And you look at it and you're like, you're 19, you've just started this. Like, without being, like, nasty to certain people, like, they are bullshitting. And it's like you're in this lonely little space and you're working all the hours and it's like every hour that I put in, I'm not getting anything out. But then if you don't put the hours in, you feel guilty and you're just watching a fire burn. So
it's like you're working for below minimum wage for so many years and then you catch that big break and then you can kind of reverse engineer all of the hours that you put in and work out that you're actually like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, if we actually looked at every single hour that we've spent in our businesses and the monetary value that we've received up until this point right now, what have we been working on? 2-3 pence an hour, maybe?
Mate, it's nuts.
Mate, like, do you get what it is? Seriously, though.
It's nuts.
We spoke about this on the last pod, and it's something that I'm like starting to get passionate about. I had even a pal, someone that I've made friends with recently through training, even reach out, and he was like, bro, like, thinking about getting into digital marketing, because obviously asked me what I do. I'm like, oh, social media marketing, man. Like, I'm fucking help businesses grow online. Sick. And he's like, oh, like, you can do that from anywhere, can't you? Like, proper, like, enthusiastic about it. And he messaged me the other day. He was like, bro, like, I want to get into digital marketing. Like, how do I go about it? I was like, call me. Like, I was going to be completely honest and brutal. I was going to be brutally honest with this guy about it, and not to scare him away, so he understands, because no one was like that with me and Chris. No one was like that with you when you first started. Like, and what I said to him is like, bro, like, good business model, but like, you need to be prepared to literally sacrifice your life for the foreseeable. You need to be prepared to pay yourself like absolutely nothing. It's going to take absolutely everything. You have to be committed to the fucking process and the journey. Like, it like, you have to be prepared to give this everything you want, and it's not as it seems online. And like, his reply was like, bro, but like, I've seen like it's 100% profit and stuff like this, but like, it just doesn't, it's portrayed this way online that it's so easy to get to the 10, the 50, the 100. Like, we almost spent 10K on a course trying to learn like how to get to 100K magically. But it is a long, lonely journey that you have to be prepared to endure for so long to like finally, like, until it just like clicks. And it's like, oh, I did this.
We've bought a 10K course twice, and it's paid off.
It's funny, quite better off than Aaran, man.
Oh, mate, every time. I think the thing with entrepreneurship is, like, unless you're extremely fortunate or you're in some business where you've got a family member who is almost like guaranteeing you promotions and things like that, no one is there to say it's going to be okay, because you just don't know. And you're the one putting in the money. Everyone says, like, do you go straight from school into entrepreneurship? I don't know if I would. Like, all those lessons and those Ayia Napa trips and things like that I've learned, like, I don't know where I'd be if I'd have started straight from school. I don't know if I'd have been naive and then just quit. Or I think when you get into it, you got to be ready to like die for it. Like, you literally cannot just leave it. I would still encourage people to do it, but like, you've got to go in, because if you don't quit, like, you just won't fail. But it's so easy to quit. Like, that's the thing. It's not that it's so hard to stop. It's so easy to quit, because everything in your body and your mind is telling you to. Like, we've just, like I said, come back from that working trip, and we just worked like genuinely like 10, 11, 12 or 13 hours a day, every day. We went to this amazing gym out there twice, and both times we were like, shit. There's a photo of James with the laptop open in the octagon while we were trying to do some MMA training. Like, just, it is so hard. So
and if you don't do it, no one else will.
That's it. Like, what happens when you get poorly? What happens when you're sick? What happens if you hurt yourself and you can't do as much as what you wanted to do? There's no safety net, and I think that's what's so scary. So if you do it, maybe the stars have got to align, maybe there's a bit of luck, I'm sure there is, but you just got to have a plan and execute on it. And I think the thing that's important for me is you got to be ready to pivot. Like, if we'd have done what everyone in SMMA told us to do, we wouldn't be where we are. And I'm not saying that we're where we want to be, because there's still so many levels to this, but we've definitely broke through to the next level, because everyone was saying, pick a niche, stay in that niche. We did that with scalp micropigmentation. How many people, when they start to lose their hair, want to get a tattoo? Like, in theory, no one. Everyone wants a hair transplant. Everyone wants to get the injections to grow their real hair back. Look, that was the industry that we chose. And we were just relentless, like, this is the industry. But although we didn't earn the money in that industry that we wanted to, we learned if we can convert leads for these types of people, they don't, there's no product market fit, they don't know or understand the service, then what happens when we go to a warm audience or someone with a 50,000 a month ad spend? Those funnels that we've kind of like built. So it's kind of like you never know what the end or the finish line is. You can only see like 1 or 2 steps in front of you.
It wasn't a loss, it was a lesson.
Such a good way of putting it.
An expensive lesson, but it was a lesson.
Well,
it's just training, bro. Like, at the end of the day, like,
reps.
Yeah, literally getting the reps in, like learning, like creating a product. Like, I even saw a reel of Hormozy the other day. Okay. I could keep going back into this guy, man, but he's the goat. He's the best, man. He's one of my favorites in business. Yeah. And it was literally like, if you start a business today, the first year, like, don't care about how much you make, just focus on your product. Like, I can tell you, we've spent longer like than that focusing on products. I'm sure that you have, like, obviously the most important, but you're just getting the reps in, like learning constantly on like how to refine your service or your product.
And if we look at someone like Hormozy as well, I think one big problem that we have with, like what you said, that guy that's reached out, it's 100% profit, it's this, it's this, it's this. It's that everybody only sees the end goals on social media, the final destination, and they just associate that model or that structure or that business or that industry with that outcome.
Yeah.
And quickly, because it's in the online space and I can work anywhere and I can, but you can say whatever you want about the online space, you still have to create a business. And if everybody could turn over 10K a month, 20K a month, 100K a month from their laptop in Bali, why doesn't everyone fucking do it?
There you go. And how many people say that they do? And then, there's never any receipts, there's never any screenshots.
Sell a course.
And then they sell a course on it.
With the rented Lambo and
that's it, yeah.
the fake Patek and stuff.
Yeah, that's it. That's how those people make money. And it's kind of like a property entrepreneur who doesn't buy houses. Would you go to them? Would you go to the PT who's not in shape? Would you go to learn how to cook from someone that literally can't cook a meal? Like, it's just common sense as well. I think Hormozy talks about that as well. He says it's proof over promise. And I think that was a game changer for us. Like, once we'd literally sucked shit for like 18 months, then we actually had the results. Even though we'd had some people not so happy, we'd always done right by them with our intent and done the best we could. Those 3, 4, whatever that number is for whoever's watching, those people will be your stepping stone to the next level, and then the next, and then the next. And then all of a sudden, the client that we just signed at 5 times the fee of the last person, but they didn't ask for any social proof. They didn't ask any, because just the way, I'm assuming that the way the conversation went, it was just like, right, this guy knows what he's talking about. There's no real dramas, and that's it. And business does get a little bit easier. It's kind of like once you get those wheels turning, it's a lot easier. So, yeah, like you said before, that first year, you just got to be prepared to not earn money. Just literally, just put your face through blades and just push out to the other side. And then that's the only way that you can get out. But most people will get through that and then they'll just quit.
I mean, every successful entrepreneur, businessman that's like a couple of generations above us that I've heard speak openly on podcasts, whatever it may be, on whatever platform they've shared their stories, they always say the first million is the hardest.
Yeah.
And it goes off what you said. Like, that first million is my product good enough? Yes, I've eaten shit. I've gone into the wrong niche. I've gone into the wrong model. I need to pivot. I need to refine it. Now I need to scale it. Now I need to sack someone. Now I need to get to that first mil. But more often than not, once you've created a business that's generated over £1 million, you've got something that works. And then we go back to your Cadbury's point. Instead of 1 scoop, use 2.
Yeah.
Suck extra value from the guys that it's already working for to increase the margin and to generate extra. So then that from 1 million to 5 or to 10 or to 100, whatever it may be, is going to be a lot easier than that 0. Not even to 1 million, to 100K. And do you know what I mean? That first 100K, it's going to be a lot easier to get from 100K to 1 million than it is to get to 0 to 100.
100%. And then you've learned, like you've experienced these things before. Like we've had a client's Instagram account go down 2 days ago. We got it back. Now we know what happened. It's gone down again. We've got to do it again. But when that's the 5th client and they come to us and say, my Instagram account's gone down or whatever it is, it's like we've seen this before. Our breathing rate doesn't change. Our stress levels don't go up. It's like, I think the thing that I thought in business is, this is great. Like I'm just trying to avoid stress. If I can just hide myself from stress, then I'm running an okay business. But you cannot avoid it. It's just kind of like getting used to it.
How you deal with it?
It's like exposure therapy, like what you were saying before about like getting ready for the cold winters, and you've just kind of got to get near that stuff for long enough to the point where you're just in it and it doesn't phase you. And I'm not saying that we're there at like some crazy level, but like some of the things that would have woke us up or kept us up at night, like we woke up the other day and a client had been charged $1,500 for a service or a software that he shouldn't have paid for. And there's a WTF message to us. My heart would have dropped many times, but now it's like, right, this is something. He's probably been billed annually for a service that he didn't mean. And like, you can kind of pivot that way. So yeah, it's leverage a lot of the times. And when you know like what levers to pull, what outreach method, for example, I spent 100 phone calls a day on cold calling realtors in the US. I didn't know the US market. I didn't know what anything was in the US, but I wasted all that time. But now if I send a message to one of my existing clients and say, hey, look, I'll give you 50% referral on the setup fee. Do you know anyone? And obviously I'm already giving them a good service. That's way easier. And I can charge them more because it comes from referral than calling 100 realtors for like a month. Do you see my point? And like leverage there, like it's a massive thing.
It's experience.
It's experience. It's just knowing how to roll with the punches and where to go, where to spend your time. I'm a massive believer now of working smarter, not harder. I used to hear Floyd Mayweather say that, and I used to love that because obviously it's like, oh, I don't have to work as hard. But like, yeah, I used to think like...
No, naturally though, that is where your head goes though, right?
100%. That's what I was saying before. Like, it's not that it's so hard to stay; it's so easy to quit. Like your body just wants to, and your mind, you just want to do the easiest path.
I really like that.
Yeah, it's true though, isn't it? Like if you can pull 3 levers, and 2 take you 2 hours each, and one's a quick 5-minute job, and it gets you the most results. Like which one do you go for? So through experience, you start to know which one to pull, and that's what's so like appealing to me. Like I put up an Instagram reel the other day saying like how sexy business is, and I got ripped a little bit from my mates for it, but like it's so appealing to me. Like being able to genuinely meet someone who, like our most recent clients in Miami, like just Miami and all the associations, it's like, it's fun, it's fast, it's appealing, it's the nightlife, the culture, the palm trees. Like we'll go out there and we'll visit him and we'll have some lunches. He's in like working out space. So we'll end up like having a real good time with a real nice client. We can't get that with like a brick and mortar business, if you know what I mean. Like the kind of industry and where you're at makes such a difference, and it's a fun business. And then to turn around to that person and then help them earn another 20, 30, 40,000 a month. It's like that is...
And to get a piece.
And to get a piece of the pie is always nice, yeah. So it's really fun what we're in now, but if I'd have known this 6 months ago, I probably wouldn't have believed it, because the position we were in was we are just stacked up with work. And I remember someone at this office saying to me, there's 2 of you full-time and you've got 2 virtual assistants. How are you busy? How are you only earning like whatever it was that we were earning? And you've got 4 people working full-time. Like, how does that work? But that's what I mean. We were working on the wrong stuff. But you don't know that. Like, you don't know what you don't know. So that's why I'm a big believer in honestly paying for courses, because they've helped me. But I don't have one.
You hear the...
Just put that out there.
Yeah. You hear everywhere about the... Like, oh, like you need to be working on the business, not in the business. But like that doesn't really give you much context. Yeah. I've started reading... Obviously, I know that we spoke about Sabri Subi a lot recently, but I've started reading his book. And... at the start of the book, he doesn't really tell you much about marketing. He's just like getting you primed and motivated. Like I'm reading it and I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like I'm ready to take over the world now, man. Like I'm in bed getting hyped up. But he speaks about working on the business, not in it. Yeah. But he breaks it down that you're not spending the right time on the right things, etc., which everybody knows. You hear it in every podcast, every YouTube video. But the way that he said it was you need to spend your time working on revenue producing activities. And I was like, oh, like it's common sense. But that's how you work on the business. Like like working on the business isn't just like, okay, I'm going to work on it, so I'm going to put together this ad campaign or social media post. It's like, what can I genuinely do every single second for 80% of the day to bring in revenue for my business or whatever it is that you may be doing? I was like, oh, it was almost like a light bulb moment. Like I remember I came into the office the next day, like, I was like, bro, like, how the fuck are we gonna produce some more revenue, man? Like, how are we doing this? Excited, like, worked out. Obviously, spoke with you. You were a big help with that as well. I was like, I don't know. It's like a new life's been bred.
That's what I mean, man. It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's fun. We're lucky guys to be able to do this. Like, if you thought 50 years ago this was possible, like, you guys are early 20s, I'm kind of hitting late 20s, and like, still that's young. And like, if you were a business owner back in the day, it was so well respected because it was so hard. Like, if one issue came with the building, like, you lose everything and whatever it was. Well, now we open up our laptops in the morning, whatever time, and that is your bit. Like, really, is that really what we're struggling with? Is that what we're complaining about? Like, when you reset it like that, people didn't have hot showers 100 years ago. Like, we are lucky people. So when you have that frame in what you're doing, it's fun. But yeah, to echo what you're saying, mate, when we were with our clients and we thought, right, we need to chase revenue, there was an issue where we were trying to improve the product. But a lot of the times when you chase the revenue, you get the profit to pay someone to teach you how to have a good product. So it works. So it's almost like when you bring on a client, you should focus on them. When in reality, if you bring on another 2 after that, you can afford virtual assistants or team members or better softwares to give, you know, that first client a better service. So you've got to kind of remember that. That was something we were guilty of in the early days. Like, we had a client, let's just give them the best possible product, but we knew nothing. So we kind of paid for education, and it worked for us. Like, I can't speak for everyone at every course, but I can't say a bad thing about the courses that I've done. So I hope that kind of answers it.
You know, like, let's go back 6 months. When you said a little bit earlier on today, like, if you'd have said this to me 6 months ago, I wouldn't have believed you. What would you say now where you are at? Obviously, we know there's still a long way to go for all of us, right? We still want to go and do more. But where you are right now, what do you say to the Aaran 6 months ago, or to the other business owner that's in Aaran's shoes 6 months ago, that's in a bit of a rut, a bit of a standstill, doesn't really know what they're doing, but knows that they are built for something more? They are built to be an entrepreneur. They'll find a way, but right now they can't. What is the message that you would say to that person?
I would say all boats rise with the right tide. And for example, when I was in a estate agency, I think I was good at it because I was very respectful of the clients. I was always on time. But if somebody doesn't show up to a viewing, you're not selling anything. When you're doing social media marketing and someone's been on the phone with 15 other marketing agencies that morning, and then you're the 16th, like, are you really going to get the business? Whereas when you are in like a blue ocean, like we spoke about before, it's a lot easier. So you've got to work smarter, not harder. Like, when I got out of a estate agency, property prices tanked, and I'm so glad that I got out. So as much as you can be in the right industry and all boats rise with the right tide, they can also crash. So you just got to be careful what vehicle you choose in order to actually grow. So I would actually put a lot of emphasis on that. Some people say get started and figure it out later. I would say you probably do need to be quite calculated in what business you're going into. If you're going to start a paper printing business now, like, are you going to be as good as setting up like the equivalent of an iPhone, for example? Like, you've got to go with the trend. So that's kind of what I would say. 6 months ago, we were in a hard position. I was kind of referring to, like, when I started the business in general, I would probably not do it. But 6 months ago, well, to give clarity, like 11 months ago, we went to Marbella. It was the first time I'd ever been, and we signed the client on a £1,000 a month retainer, and I was buzzing because it was the first deal that I'd signed abroad. I mean, I'd signed like £1,000 retainers before, but this was abroad, and I was like, wow, this is cool. Like, I can do this in Marbella. And I remember the phone call when the payment came through. I was on the phone to him, and I was watching the sunset in Marbella, and it was like just a light bulb moment. I was like,
Fuck yeah.
This is it. Fast forward 3 months, it was like headaches and stresses. But in that moment, it kind of made me realise, well, 11 months later, so in November this year, we've just come back. And like I said, the setup fee for a client was 5 times that. So I'm not saying that to be like, oh, we're doing so well. But like, again, you got to play in the right game. You got to be in the right vehicle. Our service that we're providing this guy is a lot less than what we were providing with the other guy. But if it wasn't for that first guy, we wouldn't have, got to where we are. So yeah, you got to be calculated.
I also think it's important with what you've just said. If the right actions are taken, that can be the difference in 11 months.
That's it. Like, life can change so quick, for good and bad. Like, when I was in a state agency, something happened, lost 2 family members in like 11 months. It was a fucking nightmare. That's all good. So, but I learned a lot. And when you're in those positions, it's like you have to be able to see the light. I was in a position where I could say what I wanted to say to my loved ones when I knew that they were going down that road. And that was the positive. My sister always kind of takes the piss because I try and see the positives. And she literally called me and went, where's the positive in that then, when we got the news? And I said, well, we now get to know that what's coming and spend time, and you've got to be able to see the positives in everything. So although it's been an absolute fucking roller coaster with this business, we are here now, or at least in a comfortable position, let's call it. And I wouldn't have probably gone ahead with it if I'd have known that when we started. But like I said to you before, you don't know what the end journey is going to be, but you've just got to take those steps and get there. As long as you believe and you're morally going after the right things, you're not cheating anyone, you're not stealing. Like, how could you not win? Like, you guys had offered some advice and asked for some advice, and you guys are nice and you got this really good brand online, and we just chatted, and it's like, it's actually quite hard to not get a little bit of help from someone. Like, you've got to be quite a dick to not at least put your hand down and say, I was there, like, I'll help you out. Not to you guys, but I'm referring to, like, there's a lad in Ireland right now, he's 16, he's a copywriter, keeps on asking me for help. So I jump on calls with him and I like give him advice, and I've tried to get him involved with our clients, and like, but someone did that for me. I was telling you before, I had a family member that basically helped me get all this started. When I, if you don't mind me talking about this.
Go on.
Yeah, of course.
When I went through that situation with my family member, he sat down in the room with me and my family, and he went, look, you've been approaching me about business forever. Like, what would you do? I was like, I don't know. And he went, well, look, if you didn't have to worry about a salary for like 2-3 months, what would you do? I was like, I don't know, but I'd figure it out. And he called me out on it. He was like, okay, let's do it. So he gave me a really, really big chance, and I owe him a lot. And again, it's funny because all these things are like little stepping stones and they all intertwine, and you just don't know what kind of deck of cards you're going to get dealt with. But I jumped on it with both hands, quit my job, and I thought, right, that's it. I've got to go all in on this. And like I say, that was part of the journey, but it was hard, and that come with stresses, and it never really worked out. Doing business with family, kind of, it's very rare that it does, but I owe him a lot, and you just can't see or foresee everything that's going to happen.
You spoke about last week, the playing blind, and like moving forwards, flying blind. It's scary, bro. Really scary. And when the money's not stacking up and your bills are, that's when you really know what you're made of, because not a lot of people can kind of walk through that.
Bedros Keuilian, he said it on his podcast. Do you know who he is or not?
I know the name, but I can't put the face to it.
You'd probably like his pods. He talks about jiu-jitsu and business a lot. He's really, really like sick, worth over 100 mil.
Oh, wow.
Fastest growing franchise in the US, like crazy, bro. And he said it on one of his podcasts, and I'm pretty sure I remember saying it to Chris straight away after. I don't know whether I remember or not, but he said, you have to work so hard towards whatever it is that you want that it is unreasonable if you don't achieve it. And I was like, like, it needs to be like fucking relentless work, that it is unreasonable that we do not make it to the final destination, or like what we think the final destination is in our head. And I was like, shit, like that is genuinely like what it takes. Like, it needs to be unreasonable for you not to achieve your goal.
Oh, I like that. It's like going to the gym, isn't it? You got to rip the muscles, you got to do it day in, day out, and like, that's what I like about business these days. Like, it is pretty calculated, or you can get there. Like when Hormozy talks about, you turn on ads, your cost per lead is this, your cost per booked appointment is that. Every 5 booked appointments, you close 2. Like, you can kind of work these things out sometimes when you actually start to get a working business model. But again, that all comes with AI. You can go on ChatGPT and figure out your cost per everything now. Like, we're in a pretty easy environment to find something. So it's finding the business model isn't necessarily the hard thing. It's just being able to stick with it.
And implement it effectively, I think.
It's that whole thing, isn't it? Like quality and quantity. Like, what are you working on and for how long? But if you can do 12, 13-hour days on the right things, then, and if there's 2 of you, like, you're getting literally 24 hours in a day of solid work. You've only got to do that for 12. Our business completely changed in the last 6 months. Completely changed. Whether it was luck and all the hard work, like whatever it was a combination. But like you just said, we worked so hard. That could have been for another 5 years. I've had family members. I've got my granddad. He's 80, and he keeps saying to me, when am I going to pack it all up? Or he used to, he'd say, when are you going to pack it all up and get a job then? A real job, I think he said. And he means it with like love. Like, he doesn't mean it in a bad way. Like, he sees me putting in all these hours, and he goes, how much was you paid this month? How much did you get there? Like, are you doing okay? And he'd say to other family members, I wish you did this. And then you hear the whispers from them, and you've kind of got to just be obsessed with it for like a certain period of time, and you will come out of it. Because, like I say, how can you not?
Being able... Oh, sorry, go on.
No, you go on, because I feel like you was just about to cook, so I want to let you land.
I don't know if I was going to cook. But
let him cook. Let him cook.
It is, when I say it is a strong power, being able to block out that outside noise. Like, the only way that I can relate, and kind of how I almost conditioned myself for it, but I ate a lot of shit. I mean, I still do, obviously, in business, but in a different aspect. When I started like being a bit more, out there and trying to do my own thing, whether that was like I started a fitness page or like starting YouTube, and I would get the shit ripped into me, bro.
Yeah, man.
From friends, from people that I don't even know, like phone calls, people like taking a piss out of me who I still don't know who they are to this day. But like that is like, then I didn't care. It probably upset me because like I'm talking like 5-6 years ago, like I didn't have as much life experience, but like still to this day now, like being able to block out the noise, like I think that those experiences, starting from a younger age doing that stuff, allowed me to block out the noise as well from family. Not that they weren't supportive, or like friends or whoever it may be. Not that people weren't supportive, but it was, but like you've got a good family business, or you could go and get a job and be a dentist or a doctor, and like life will be good, etc. Like being able to block that out and relentlessly like make it unrealistic that you're not going to achieve what you set out to achieve. Like it's powerful, man. It's a big thing to have.
Just want to say, fuck them. We'll show them.
Definitely.
For sure, bro. We spoke about many stories on the pod, man, of like past experiences, like
we'll show
friends or whoever. I even said it the other day, man. Our first ever retainer client, like the day that I don't even know if we're going to decide to pull back up there, man. But the day that we decide to pull back up and we walk in there and like we've made it, I don't even know if it will give the clarity that we want it to, but it'll be a good feeling. Probably won't even be good.
I can imagine. Yeah, it happens, man. I think it's easy. Like you've heard the phrase mental masturbation.
I haven't, but it sounds great.
Oh, okay. So I'll enlighten you.
Sounds great.
So you can imagine the equivalent, mental masturbation. It's like if I want to start a business, I got a friend who's kind of stuck in a 9-to-5 right now, and he keeps on asking for advice and then wanting to do something with us. And whenever it comes to pull the trigger, it just doesn't happen. The meeting gets pushed back or whatever it is. And I don't blame him because he's stuck in it. But when you tell people that you're going to start a business, it almost feels as good as starting the business and without the downside of the reality. So if I keep telling you guys I'm going to start getting into bodyweight workouts and I want to do 10 muscle ups and however many push-ups or whatever, it makes me feel good because I think that I'm actually doing it, but I'm doing fuck all. You have to actually do the reps. So I don't know if that's kind of in relation to what you were saying, but like if you ask your family and friends, not only are you kind of overstimulating your mind in the sense that you think you're doing it, you're not, and you get all their doubts and all their fears and everything else put onto you. And sometimes you just got to do it silently. Like when my family member tried to offer me a helping hand, he didn't know that I'd been starting a marketing agency for 3 months. No one knew. And I'm glad I did it that way because sometimes when you ask other people, you get that one negative opinion. The amount of people told me...
It creeps in.
It creeps in, yeah, the doubt. And then like doubt is, oh man, it's like a cancer. You got to cut that straight out. When I was 14, I started riding motorbikes because when I lived on Guernsey, you could have a bike at 14. And I had a Suzuki GSXR 750, 21, because I got my license early. It is literally quicker than Lamborghinis in like acceleration. Like it's an unreal bike. And everyone told me not to get one. Everyone had to tell me that they know someone that died on a motorbike. Everyone just had to tell me that. So they're putting their thoughts onto me. Like, how is that relevant to me? And they're not saying it because they care, because they were strangers a lot of the time. Like, oh, I knew someone that, lost a leg. And where's this coming from? Like, it's such negative energy. But I told them after I got the bike, so I'm not going to sell it because I heard a story. But if I wanted a bike and then someone starts telling me, and then another, I probably would have never had a bike. Mm-hmm. That's just one analogy, obviously. But like when it comes to business, it's so easy to put you off. So don't tell too many people, in my opinion. Make sure it's calculated. Tell people that you care. But oftentimes your family, like they don't want you to go through those negative environments. It's like telling the kid that the fire is hot. Like you can tell it, but eventually it's going to try and touch it and then learn for himself. Then he's definitely never going to touch it again. But you just telling him won't actually install that in him. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Do you want to hear a crazy fact? Mm-hmm. It's telling people your goals, dreams, whatever it is, actually releases more dopamine than actually achieving it.
That's exactly what I'm saying, yeah.
Like, I don't know, just fucking keep them close, like, within inside you. Like, I don't know, some people, like, maybe it helps them. Like, obviously, I'm not saying, like, don't believe that you can do it. Don't speak your dreams into reality. Whatever it might be, whatever works for you. Mm-hmm. But going out and like shouting about what it is that you're going to do to whoever it is that you meet on the first encounter, your friends, whatever it is, like you're giving yourself the satisfaction, a better satisfaction of actually achieving the goal than achieving it.
Yeah.
Like it's going to take away some of that drive. It's probably going to boost your ego a little bit. Like just it is like laser focus, fall in love with the process. And like those other bits will come. I feel like that's something that has been some shit that I've had to eat personally.
Yeah.
Like understanding how to enjoy the process, relating it to other places in my life and be like, oh, okay, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not everybody says, like, again, like you see it online. It's like, oh, like you have to love the journey. Like the journey is the best part.
Yeah.
Bro, the journey is sat in and like on the laptop grinding at the start. Like that's the journey at the start. Like it's not all glitz and glamour and like holidays, whatever. Like that is the journey. But like understanding how to enjoy that is like, it's impactful, man. It makes everything more fun.
I couldn't agree more, man. Like me and my business partner now, what we do is we'll try and pick a fun place that we've never been. We'll go there, we'll train MMA, and we'll go and leave the apartment when we can. Like we're not even going there to travel. It's just to change that scenery and be around people. I mentioned before when we went to Marbella, we booked in 3 meetings with like big, well-known people. A deal has been verbally agreed. I won't kind of bullshit. Just by being in that kind of like vicinity of success, it's like, I want this. And then when I got back to England, I felt like shit. And I had to wait for someone to come pick me up in the freezing cold, because it was at that time where it came like literally freezing in England. And I was like, man, I want to get back out there, but how am I going to do that? I've got to be able to afford it and to bring my family there. I don't want to leave England like without my family. So it's like, how can I do that? And that gives you that motivation. So being around the right people makes a big difference. But literally, I played 5-a-side on Monday, last week, or this week, sorry, 4 days ago. And as I was leaving, there's jokes about like when you get home, take a photo of the laptop when you get back, and like everyone's ripping me for that. And it is what it is. Like if that's the sacrifice I got to pay to not be, or to be able to say no to anyone. And I swear to you, this week I've just given a deal for $2,000 to someone else because it just wasn't worth the time. I'm not saying I'm turning my nose at it. It's the time that it would have took me to get that money back. There was another deal, this client that wanted to pay us £750 a month. It's just not worth it. Like you get to be able to say no to stuff, and it's the power of saying no is such a nice feeling, because for the most part you constantly get desperate. And I'm a big believer in not operating out of scarcity. Like you will take on that client that you shouldn't. And I told you guys before, not something I'm proud of, but we had to basically turn down 5 clients this month because we are too busy. Like we've bitten off more than we can chew. The previous model, was stack them high, sell them low. Like get as many on as you can and give them a mediocre service. And that's not what we are now. And we've literally had to embarrassingly and awkwardly say, I'm really sorry, we will do this for free up to this amount, and then it's all you, but we won't charge you for anything. So we've wasted even more time. But I would be not respecting their businesses if we'd have just done that. So it's nice when you get to that position where you can turn things down. But in order to get that, I'm still taking shit from friends, and it's not really a big sacrifice to make, is it? Like, if I was to ask you guys, if you could travel any month that you wanted, money aside, forget what you earn, like, what is that worth? Like, if I said to you, you can have a 9 to 5, or more realistically, an 8 till 6 these days, but what's the salary? What is the figure that would stop you from being able to travel whenever you want? Is it 100 grand? Is it 150? Like, what is that figure? Because to me, there is no figure. £1 million a year and I can't travel when I want. Fuck that. When my family member gets, ill, I can't go and see them. No money on the planet could give me that. So just that alone, if you're struggling to make ends meet, like it is worth it, in my opinion.
What's from a personal level, I want to know this, the change of scenery, pick somewhere fun, let's go there and let's go and work.
Yeah.
Like, do you see an increase in productivity? Is it just a mood thing? Yeah. Is it like we get to see this place and we're actually really doing it? Like, is there actually a direct correlation to, fuck it, let's go somewhere we've never been before and put our heads in our laptop and more results? Or is it just something that you do just for like your mental state? That's
a really good question, man. I think weather's a big thing, like that seasonal depression. Like,
I agree.
In the winter, people start to feel shit. Doctors are now saying to people you should have like vitamin D tablets to like keep your body feeling better in the winters. And I'm a big believer in that, because for me, every time we've gone away, and it has been quite a few times, something has happened. So to list them all off, I wouldn't be able to do right now. But the most recent one was obviously being away in Spain, Marbella. I sent a photo to a client saying like, look at where I'm working out today. And he sent me a photo back of him there like 2 years ago. And that was before the deal was signed, and it was a conversation starter, and he'd ended up living out there and stuff. 11 months before that, when we were out there, we signed that big client. To me, when you're in the right headspace and you feel it in your chest, like you're proud of what you do, the energy that you put out just gets good energy back. It's a real hard one to give you like
an
tangible
aura thing. Like an aura thing.
Sorry? Oh, yeah, 100% like an aura. Like, if someone walks into the room, you can feel it sometimes. Like, if they've just had an argument with the missus, are you still going to feel that energy? Like, the chances is probably not. So for us, it's also just like this little thing of like, we suck shit all the time. And when you're away, it's not like all sunshine and rainbows. Like, you still have problems. And this time around, if anything, like our most recent trip made me realise that. Like, even just because you're in a different postcode, like, the problems don't move. But it still helps you want to realign where you're at. Like, for example, if it's a nice sunny day and you've got 8 hours of work, all of a sudden you're doing it in 5, so you can get 3 hours out in the sun in the morning. And you start to realise, well, I would have wasted so much time doing that. Or back in England, I'd be having a morning coffee right now, or stroking my dogs and doing nothing. Whereas now, it's like I'm grafting until midnight, because tomorrow I want to go to Real Club Padel and I want to do MMA for 2 hours. So if that answers your question, I think...
I like that perspective of it. If you've got more things to look forward to around the work, you do the work more efficiently.
That's the biggest thing for me. And again, it's that whole thing of like working smarter, not harder. And sometimes when you're in England and you've got no real goals to work towards, like when you're there and you're like, right, my flight back is on this day. Like, that's a horrible feeling. Like, we went to Spain. I went to Valencia. I can't remember when it was now. I think it was in June or something like that. And my friends went out for a weekend and I just thought, fuck it, I'll stay out. And then watching them go, and this, honest to God, this is not to say anything negative on any friends that have jobs, because I was in that position until like 25. It's like, it's such a nice feeling. And sometimes, like,
when they had to go back to reality.
And wake up hungover at 8:30 to go and catch their flight. That's not me saying anything negative to that, but it's like, those guys have got guaranteed money. They're getting a pension. They've got their car on finance. They're getting a mortgage. Like, 2 of them just moved in with their girlfriends. Like, that's great for them. I'm in a completely different lane. And there's a lot more negatives, like mental health and making sure that you're okay. No one really to check up on you. No one there to cover your bills when you're not, able to pay them and things like that. But this allows me to be able to take this little moment. This is my little win. And you kind of like realign. And I stayed out there for 2 weeks. I actually travelled from Valencia down to Alicante, stayed out there for a week, rang my mum, and then she came out and flew to Spain and spent 5 nights with me, I think. What's that worth? Like, if something happened to my mum next year, God forbid, how much is that experience worth to me?
Cherish that experience so much.
Is it, again, like my question before, what's that experience worth to me? Is it 50 grand, 5 grand, 51 grand? Like, what's that numeric amount? It's invaluable to me. And having unfortunately lost a couple of real close family members in the last 2 years, like, these are the things I cherish now, like, above the money. Like, the money kind of comes with it, hopefully, over time.
I think the big thing is that money unlocks the freedom. The freedom of time, the freedom of location, the freedom to make the choice, how you want to make the choice.
Yeah.
And obviously the financial freedom but you need the money to unlock these things, right?
1000%.
If you didn't have the money to stay out there for 2 weeks, or if you weren't in a business which gave you location freedom to keep making the money to keep you out there, or to say, Mom, why don't you come out for 5 days?
Yeah.
You needed the money to do it, to 100%. Unlock that level, to be able to play that level of the game.
100%.
But like, is it, obviously it's probably the most important thing, because without it, you can't unlock that. But it's not what you find the most valuable.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a step that you need to, like, you need the screwdriver to put the screw in, but the screwdriver doesn't stay in.
Yeah.
It's the screw that keeps everything together. But without the screwdriver, you're fucked. The money is the screwdriver in this analogy, by the way.
Thanks. No, that's good, man. Like, it's true. Like, my uncle said to me, he was like, when it's all said and done, all we have are our experiences. That is all it is. It's quality of life over quantity. Like, I just think it's so important to just choose your own vision and kind of like work toward that. Like, you can't be chasing someone else's dream. Yeah, man, I'm in like complete agreement that you've got to do it, and it's worth it in the end. Like, whatever that thing is for you, whether that's being able to go boxing training like you, or do your fitness in the morning before work, or whatever your passions are. Like, again, what is that numeric amount? I think it was some comedian, I can't remember his name now, but he was saying, like, what's the paycheck? What did they pay you to give up on your dream? Do you know that quote? It was like, what?
Oh, yeah.
You know the one I'm on about? I can't think of the guy's name now. What's the paycheck? What have I got to write for you to give up on your dream? Would you cash that check? Like, honest to God, I'll be really transparent. This business is, like I say, it's been so hard to run, and it's pivoted a bunch of different times. But everyone else told us to keep. What's that? You too?
I said word.
Yeah, like, it's hard. No one wants to say that, but like, it is tough, and but it's so worth it. Like I said, that one trip with my mum, that one time where I got to see someone on their last days, like that is worth millions, more than millions. Like, yeah.
I think that's a really beautiful place for us to wrap it up, bro.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. No, it was nice. It was full circle for me. Like I said, I used to work at this office.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been really cool. And,
It was nice to have you down, man. We appreciate you genuinely from the bottom of our hearts. We do.
No, 100%. It's been appreciated to tell my story on a platform. You guys are absolutely smashing it. And if I can help.
What we said to you yesterday, will be episode 98, I believe.
Okay.
If we can replicate this, number 198, but we'll do it out of a penthouse in Dubai or some shit like that. And we'll be like, do you remember in that old shitty office that we both all used to work in? But yeah, man. Listen, for you guys that have clicked on, that have listened, that have watched, thank you so much. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Turn the bell notification on so you get notified every time we release a podcast. And my Spotify guys, make sure you leave us a rating and drop us a follow. And we'll see you all next week.
Love, guys. We'll catch you later.
We're good.
Peace.